Hello everybody. Hi Paige, how are you today? I hope you are all well today. Hope you're all feeling good. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Hi Sophie, how are you? Hope you're well. Feel free to say hello to each other in the chat. Hi Pauline. Long time no see. Hope you are well. So, welcome everybody. Hello Evelyn. Hope you're well. Hi Christoph. Hello Fluke. So, thank you all so much for joining today. So, today's topic, we're going to be talking about some simple tricks to speak English like a native. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you a question to begin with. So obviously just now I asked you, how are you? So obviously this is one of the more kind of formal ways to say this, but can you think of some more informal ways that we can say this in English that native English speakers might say? So a variation of how are you? It would be great if you could type some of these variations if you know them. So it's just a little warm-up question. So, hi Isabel, hi Raphael. So another way to say, how are you? Sophie, great. So how do you do? This is also quite a formal way of saying this. So looking for an informal or kind of something that native speakers say when they want to be kind of more casual. So when they are more like relaxed, or maybe something they would say to their friends. Floquet, thank you very much. What's up? This is a very informal way of saying that. So if somebody says to you, what's up? It's a little bit like, what are you doing at the moment? Or what's happening in your life? And you could respond with, not much, for example, or lots of things. Alam, yes, how are you doing? That's good, yes. Still on the formal side. So I'll share with you another one that's a little bit less formal, so informal, that's very common, commonly said in the UK and in the US. How's it going? So how's it going is asking about like your mood, your feeling. It's just another way of saying how are you, and it's more casual, and this is something that native speakers say. So if somebody asks you, how's it going? They mean, how are you? So that's just a different way of saying it. Great. So thank you all so much for sharing your answers. So I'm going to give you the first tip for sounding like a native English speaker. So the first tip I have for you is in relation to contractions. So we use a lot of contractions in English. And sometimes at school they say, oh, you shouldn't use it when you are writing. But when it comes to speaking, it's really important to use contractions. So for example, the most simple one that I'm sure you know is the contraction I am. It turns into I'm, for example. So can anybody give me any more examples of some contractions? So I'll give you a few minutes a few seconds to write that. So maybe I will help you out here. So another very common one in English is I will. Yes, great, perfect. You guys understood. So Isabel, we have don't, great. Sophie, your. Evelyn, I've. Alem, the same. Pauline, can't. Floquet, doesn't. Christophe, it's. Veronique, isn't. Your. Great, perfect, nice. So like I said, when you are speaking English, it's extremely natural to use contractions. Unless you really want to emphasize something, like for example, you want to say, I am hungry, if somebody says you are not hungry, for example. But native English speakers contract all the time. So it's really important that when you speak English, you try to contract as much as possible as well. So another example as well is I would, I'd. It's also a very common one that we use very often as well. So thank you all so much for your examples. That was really great. Thank you very much, Felix. The background is the background of Paris. So it's a view of Paris behind me. Okay, so let's move on to the next tip. So let's talk about possession. So yes, Paige, I'd like to sleep. We all like to sleep. Yes. So the next topic is in relation to possession. So when you translate directly from French, it's very common that somebody might say something like this. So, the dog of my sister. So this is a direct translation from French, for example. What is the more natural way to say this in English? It's possible to say the dog of my sister in English, but this isn't the most natural way to say it. It's a little bit long in English. Okay, great. So we've already got some answers from Sophie, Alain, Veronique, Fluke, Christophe. Thank you very much. Yes. So the correct answer is my sister's dog. So we take whoever has the possession of the item and they come first, and then we add the apostrophe S there. So if you say the dog's sister, then it means that the dog has a sister. So it means something a little bit different there. So you could say it's my sister's dog. So yes, great, nice. So let's have another example. So let's say the phone of Daniel. Again, you can say this in English. It just sounds a little bit strange. It's not the most natural way to say it. So how would you make this possessive in English? I'll just wait a few seconds for some of your answers. Great, perfect. So Sophie, thank you very much. Very fast. Daniel's phone. Yes. Alim, good. Just without the, you just say the name of the person. Exactly. And yes, Veronique, if you already know it's Daniel or you're already talking about Daniel, you can say his phone. So yes, Paige, so without the, it's Daniel's phone. Exactly. Great. Perfect. So I have one more for you. So be careful with this one. So the cat of my parents. So how would we say this? Oh, please be careful with the spelling. This is my clue for you. Great, Sophie, you're first again. Nice. Anybody else? Any other answers? Yes. Okay, great. So the answer for this one is slightly different. So you see before that when we talk about an item that is a person or a thing that is singular, it's apostrophe S. But when it's plural, we put an S and then we have an apostrophe. So when we say the cat of my parents, we're talking about my mother and my father. Therefore, it's plural, so it needs to be an S and then an apostrophe. When you say it, it's the same, but just be careful when you're spelling it. So, yes, my parents' cat. Good, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to move on to my next tip, my third tip for you for sounding more natural in English. So when we use expressions like I think or I hope. So if somebody asks you, imagine that there is a party tonight and somebody says to you, will you go to the party tonight? And maybe you did not decide yet, or maybe you're thinking, maybe it's not it's not 100% sure. So you can use one of the expressions. So you can use expression I think or I hope, but you need to add an extra word to it. Does anybody know what this extra word is? So, will you go to the party tonight? I think, and then it's just one extra word on the end. So, okay. So, Alam said, I may go. Yes, that's a possibility. Sophie, great. So, I hope so. Exactly. Perfect. So, this is something very natural that we use in English. So, if you want to say, I hope, as an answer to a question, you have to add the word so on the end. So if you say I hope, it's a little bit short. In English, we add the so on the end, or I think so, especially if you are not 100% sure. So maybe again, somebody asks you a fact about something. Maybe somebody says to you, I don't know, is Manila the capital of the Philippines, for example? And you could say, I think so. Maybe you are not sure. So make sure that when you say, I hope, or I think, when you're answering a statement, that you add the so. This makes it sound extremely natural. And this is what we do in English all the time. So I hope that's clear. So we're going to move on to my fourth tip for you today. So imagine that you are making a comparison between two items. So you can use the phrase similar to. So for example, clementines are similar to oranges, for example. Does anybody know another phrase that we can use when we make a comparison that we often use in spoken English? So there are two phrases that we use in English. Does anybody have any idea of these phrases? The same as, yes, exactly. Yes, you can use this also for written English as well. So I'm looking for a phrase that is a little bit more informal. So I'm going to share the first one with you. And this is, we often use this. Yes, you guys are getting closer. So like, yes. So this is something we use more in spoken speech than in written speech. Kind of like. Another one that we also use that's similar, sort of like. So when you are making a comparison of things that are similar with each other, you can use this. So in spoken speech, you can say it's kind of like this, it's sort of like this. So this is something really common that we use a lot in English. So if anybody would like to write a sentence making a comparison between two things, that would be great, using phrases like kind of like and sort of like. Like I said, it's usually for spoken phrases, and it's usually quite casual as well. So something you would probably use more with your friends rather than a formal work situation. So it would be great if you could write like an example sentence. That would be nice. So I can give you another example if you like. So now many of you will probably disagree with me when I say this, but the weather in Paris is sort of like London. So in my opinion, they are similar. People say the weather in London is bad, but the weather in Paris isn't great either. Yes. The blue sky is sort of like the blue of the ocean. Yes, exactly. Good one, Alim. Yes. This dress is kind of like mine. Yes, exactly, Evelyn. So you both have similar dresses. Exactly. Great. Perfect. Nice examples. Thank you very much for that. Okay. So we're going to do a little recap. Oh, great. Thank you very much, Veronique. This evening, the sky is kind of like the sea. Ah, very poetic. Very nice. Yes, exactly. Great. So we're going to do a recap of the 5 tips that I've given you. So first of all, let's go over possession again. So it would be great if you could type and tell me about an item which a person you know owns. So doing it in the way that we spoke about. So trying to avoid the French way, so the direct translation, and using the apostrophe S, which is the most natural way in English. So it would be great if you could all write example sentences. And of course, I can help you. I can also write an example sentence as well. So I'm waiting to see if any of you write first. Great. So Veronique, owns means to possess or to belong. So something that is in the possession of a person. So Raphael, thank you very much. My boss's phone. So just to let you know, if a word ends in an S, then it's just an S and an apostrophe. You don't need an extra S. So for example, if I'm going to talk about Francois, for example, the name ends in an S, so this is also just an S and an apostrophe. So this is the one exception, but great, good. My neighbor's dog, Evelyn. Yes, exactly. Just be careful of your spelling of neighbor. Perfect. Sophie, great. Thank you very much. You've used 2 of them. My sister's dog is kind of like a pig. Perfect. So yes, Raphael, even if it is singular, we do just add the apostrophe on the end as well. So my friend's opinion. So Evelyn, so if you say my friend's opinion with the apostrophe here, it's just one friend. And if you say my friend's opinion with the apostrophe at the end, then it's either 2 friends, 2 or more friends. So that just where the pronunciation is exactly the same, but just where you put the apostrophe gives it a different meaning. So just be careful where you put the apostrophe there, because then you're talking about a different group of people. Okay, so now let's move on to another tip, the tip I gave you at the beginning. So could you give me an example of a contraction? It would be great if you could give me an example of a contraction in a sentence, for example. So even when I'm speaking, probably you can hear it, that I naturally contract. It's very difficult to not contract in English. So if I say I am, it feels very unnatural to say it. So obviously that's the most common one when you say I'm or I've, because often you are talking about yourself. But you can also use it when you're talking about other people as well. So obviously when you're talking about you or he or she or we, they, you can pretty much use it for most people that you talk about. So Sophie, great. So I've got my lesson at the moment. Yes, exactly. Don't forget the E, but yes, great, perfect. So like I said, you can also use it with some other variations if you're talking about someone else as well. So any other example sentences? So okay, they're listening. Yes, perfect. Veronique, I'm hungry now. Yes, me too. I'm hungry too. Paige, Haliwa, so with Paige, just with when you use I have, usually we would add the got there as well. So I've got a lesson. But yes, very good. Nice. We've got to improve our English accents. Yes, good sentence, Alim. Nice. So Raphael, we're watching YouTube. Great. Yes, exactly. No need to apologize. No problem. Okay, I'd like to remember all that you tell us. Yes, exactly. Well, of course, you can re-watch the video on YouTube because it's filmed. So if you forget anything, you can watch the video again. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question. So, will it be sunny this weekend? How could you reply to this question using one of the tips that I told you before? So, yes, I see Raphael understands. Yes, I think we all hope so. Yes, definitely. So I think we choose I hope so instead of I think so, because I think unfortunately the weather is not nice this weekend, so you cannot say I think so. Yes, Christoph, I think it depends on your location. So I think that here in Paris the weather is not nice, but maybe if you are based in the south of France it's better. So yes, we all hope for much nicer we all hope for much nicer weather. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one. So let's think about making a comparison between two items. So Alim, just to answer your question, what about contraction when we're writing something for work? Is it better to use them or is it just for talking? I would say it depends on the level of formality. If you're writing a very formal email, for example, if you want to apply for a job, it's better to be more formal. But if you're just writing an email to your colleague, somebody that you know, then I think it's fine to use a contraction. So it's no problem to use a contraction with colleagues that you speak to often. But for example, if you're applying for a job, obviously it's very formal. So then it's better to stay away from contractions and be formal. And if the other person starts to use contractions, it's okay to copy what they write. So copy their style of writing. Okay, so like I said, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the comparison. So do you guys remember the phrase I shared with you that you could use for comparison? So no problem, Alan. So a comparison. So of course you can say something like similar to, or you could say the same as if you're talking about something that's exactly the same. But obviously I shared two phrases which you could use in spoken speech. Do you remember? Of course, you can scroll up and have a look if you forgot. And it would be great if you could write an example sentence for this. So if you remember, if you joined earlier, I made a comparison between clementines and oranges, and also between the weather in Paris and the weather in London. So... Yes. So feel free to type your answers. So maybe I can give you another one as well. Veronica, very interesting. My sister is kind of like Shakira. I'm very curious. Is it the way that she looks, or is it the way that she dances, or the way that she sings? That's a very nice comparison. So Evelyn, the weather is sometimes sort of link. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that the weather is bad or that it's good? Okay, so Christoph, my first daughter isn't the same as the second. Okay. So you could say that she is, yes, she's not the same as the second, exactly. So the phrase that we spoke about before was kind of like or sort of like. And this is usually used when we are talking about positive phrases, when we make a comparison between two items. So I don't know if you are familiar with the TV series How I Met Your Mother. Is kind of like the series Friends, in my opinion. I don't know if you watch these TV programs, but they're very common. These are both very common TV series in the English-speaking world, so American TV series. Yes, my sister has the same as kind of like Chantal Lastou. I'm not sure who that is. Somebody famous in France, I'm sure. Okay, great. So, yes, you agree with me, Floke and Arlem. Yes, they're kind of similar, you know, a group of friends who live in New York City. Haggis is sort of like horrible. So usually you have to make a comparison between two things, Sophie. So you comparing haggis to like another item, for example. So in this case, you can just say haggis is horrible or haggis is really horrible, for example. So yes, I agree. It's not very pleasant. It's not very nice. Okay, thank you so much for that. So just to finish off at the very beginning, do you remember some of the phrases that we said that make you sound more native? So instead of how are you, what is a more native way, a more kind of casual or more informal way of saying this that you would hear perhaps if you go to the US, if you go to Australia, if you go to the UK? Great, Floke. Yes, exactly. Sorry, I keep calling Floke Shade. Yes, how is it going? What's up? Exactly. Good. Great. So I would encourage you, if you speak with a native speaker, of course you can say, how are you? But it's nice to use these little phrases. You know, it's a little bit like saying quoi de neuf in French, for example. So it's just like more colloquial to kind of say these type of things. And one other one that I didn't share with you as well, that also relates kind of to the recent past that you could also say is, how have you been? So that's another one that you can use, because then you allow the person to tell you details about what they recently did. Okay, great. So thank you all so much for joining the YouTube live today. So for anybody that does not know, here at Cercle de Langues, we are an English training organization. Please feel free to look at our channel, watch our videos, watch the previous YouTube lives, and we will be here again next Tuesday at the same time to continue in our series for sounding more natural in English. So thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you, Shade. Thank you, Raphael, Paige, Christophe, Evelyn, Veronique, Sophie, everybody who was very active today. So thank you all so much. for typing your answers. I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you next Tuesday as well. So bye, see you next Tuesday. See you later, bye bye.